LearnCaster certification webinar, which is part of the VLC festival that's been going on the whole of this week. My name is Amira, and I will be talking to you today about teaching via Telegram. But before we start, just allow me to turn down the music. I actually used a little bit from Google and YouTube just now so that you can hear me much better. I hope everyone is doing well right now today for this webinar and also for the upcoming weekend, which will be a very long and inshallah a very happy weekend as well for all of our Muslim friends, including me myself. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we will start today, and I will be sharing with you some of the tips that I have for teaching using Telegram. But more importantly, I also would like to talk to you about the importance of inclusivity and compassion in teaching. So before we begin, can I just get a great shout out from a couple of people? Are we ready? Is everyone able to hear me?
Yeah.
We're ready.
Excellent, that's great. I'm actually really excited to see quite a lot of people here, friends, new friends, people we haven't met yet, because in Malaysia, it's actually 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. Not exactly the best time to be listening to a lecture seminar, but you guys are here, so I really, really appreciate that. And I hope that you will be here again tomorrow when we have another series of webinars and online courses by my VLC course mates and friends, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So let me begin by sharing my screen again. Now just give me a moment. Sometimes the online work takes a little bit of time. Just give me a minute, and here I am. Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen very, very shortly. And you will see my screen. Please excuse the type of slides that I'm using. I use whatever is at my disposal, so it doesn't really matter whether it's a little bit different. What's important is that the message gets through and it's easy to use and accessible to me and the people that I want to show it to, which is basically kind of the philosophy behind the idea of teaching via Telegram. Okay, so about this webinar, hopefully by the end of this webinar or this online session, you will be able to create your own Telegram class, and I've written that here. And also, I hope that by the end of this session, you'll also be able to brainstorm solutions for digital inclusivity. Now, excuse me, it's a bit of a tricky word to mention. And some of the things that you will be doing during this 1 hour will be taking a tour of my Telegram virtual classroom. You will also be watching a live demonstration of a new Telegram class creation. So I'm going to create a new Telegram class just to walk you through the steps of how to do that. And we will also participate in a mock-up Telegram class. And most importantly, probably, discuss possible solutions for digital inclusive online education. Now, a couple of things that you will need to know is that how we're going to move along this webinar is I am first going to talk about why I'm teaching on Telegram or why I moved my class to Telegram. And secondly, I will share a little bit of the feedback from students that I'm teaching via Telegram. And then we'll do the Telegram class tour. I'll take you on a virtual tour of my Telegram class. And during that virtual tour, we'll talk a little bit about Telegram teaching-friendly features. And then, which I hope will be the highlight of the session, because I hope you get to try it out, is we're all going to go on a mock Telegram class. And of course, most importantly, I do hope that you'll spend a few extra minutes after this webinar to give feedback on the particular webinar, because it's part of my VLC certification. That's a virtual LearnCaster certification. Now, just like most or many classes, sometimes there are prerequisites that we need to meet before we can fully participate or enjoy the benefits of the class. So the prerequisites for this class or this webinar are firstly, low bandwidth internet connection. Well, obviously, you are all watching and following this class on pretty decent bandwidth, pretty decent internet speed, because it's actually a video conferencing and streaming webinar. So obviously, you have much higher bandwidth, but in actuality, you could get away with very low bandwidth internet connection if you were to use Telegram for teaching. So that would be the prerequisite, having a low bandwidth internet connection. Secondly, a laptop, or if you don't have a laptop, a smartphone. And for the purposes of teaching online via Telegram, you can get away with a low spec smartphone, although of course, high or medium spec smartphone would be a lot better. So I don't have the technical specifications, but basically, you know, phones that you can purchase for like 200, 300 ringgit in Malaysia, that will probably be equivalent to what I would consider a low spec smartphone. But probably most importantly, the prerequisites that you do need to have for this class and also for hopefully future explorations with inclusive teaching is curiosity and an open heart. So can I just get a shout out from anybody and everybody there? Do you have, most importantly, prerequisite number 3 and number 4?
I do.
Thank you to the one person who actually replied, but that's all right. I know people are a little bit shy to shout out, and I do realize that some of you, most of you have actually muted your microphones, and it probably takes time to actually unmute. So I do appreciate that so very much. Thank you. And thank you again to the wonderful lady who did shout out that she does have the prerequisites of curiosity and an open heart. Okay, so now let's go and actually have a look at my online Telegram class. But before I do that, let me just show you a poll that I did. This is actually at 5:05 p.m. I'm currently teaching a class of about 55 or 54 students, and I'm teaching the class via Telegram, and I did this anonymous poll on Telegram just to check on, you know, how they're doing, what they think of using Telegram for our class. So we actually have 39%. I think that's about, not too good with the mental math, but that's about, I think, 15 or so students who polled and said that they love it, and another 28% who said that they like it, and another 33% who said that they were neutral about it. Now, neutral, I would have to admit, it could border between liking it or disliking it, but it's actually quite, and of course, you know, one solution does not fit everybody. So Telegram is not the magic bullet solution for learning online. But when you have majority of students actually saying that they do appreciate or they do enjoy it, then hopefully we're kind of like on the right track. And so now I guess maybe I'll stop sharing for a moment and just allow me to talk a little bit about why I started teaching on Telegram, why I moved my class to Telegram. So as everybody knows, Malaysia, just like so many countries around the world, has basically been on lockdown, or what we call the movement control order, for about 2 months. And that includes having to move classes for schools and universities. That includes having to move classes online. You can't hold physical classes during this duration. And I work at a public university in Malaysia, and my university has also done that, moving classes online, and will continue teaching online up until the end of this year. So while I would actually prefer to use a full-fledged learning management system, you know, with all the works, you know, it's got, if those of you who are not in education, you might, I should probably share with you that when teachers and lecturers do online classes, very often we would use something called a learning management system, which is basically like a very, very robust, powerful application where we can put our class notes, we can do online lectures, we can do quizzes. Students can submit their assignments. We even have things like games and puzzles that we can actually integrate with our teaching. So a lot of these online, what we call learning management systems, are really, really great for teaching. And they do make life a lot easier for the teachers sometimes because everything is basically in one place. And that would have been my preference. But I spoke to a couple of my students. I've got 50 plus students, and some of them are actually not in Malaysia. They've gone back to their countries. So I have around 6 students who are from China, and they've gone back to China, and they're now behind the Chinese firewall, which I suppose, you know, sometimes it's possible to get through the firewall to the global internet. Sometimes it's not so possible. So they're behind that Chinese firewall. And I also have quite a number of students who are in Malaysia, but they are currently in remote areas. And where their location is right now, for a couple of them, or some of them, they don't have very good internet access and they don't have very good signal. So thankfully, my university has been really, really great in terms of trying to support students who don't have internet access. And my university has actually offered to pay for new data SIM cards for 2,000 plus students who are in the low income groups so that they can actually have access to the internet and follow their online classes without having to worry about paying for the data. Because as we all know, streaming, video conferencing, sometimes even just downloading or watching YouTube videos can consume quite a lot of data, particularly for students who are in the low income groups and have to depend on the free 1 gigabyte data that's provided by the Malaysian government to all Malaysian citizens. So I spoke to a couple of students, and there was one student who actually told me that she has a laptop with her and she has her smartphone, and she luckily did get that data SIM card from the university, so she doesn't have to worry about paying for it. But where she is, the location where she's at, she has really, really bad internet access. So she can actually suddenly just lose signal. And when she tries to download things, it takes forever. So something like a small picture that takes a couple of seconds for those of us in, you know, decent signal areas to download, for her, it can be a frustrating experience of waiting like 20 minutes, 30 minutes before the full thing is actually downloaded. And for her and other students like her, actually following a live synchronous video online class like what we're doing now, it's just simply not possible. So the thing is that no matter how great your teaching might be, I'm not a great teacher, but I know many of my friends are, but no matter how great we've designed the class, no matter how much effort we've put into trying to get the learning across, if the students cannot get internet signal, really, all of it is just mute. The student won't just get their learning. And the worst thing about that is that you've got a class of 50 plus students in the classroom. And you've got some that are in the middle of Kuala Lumpur with like really great high-speed internet. And some students are from pretty well-to-do families and they have pretty high-end smartphones and they have their own laptops. And they live in comfortable, possibly air-conditioned homes with their own room. So for them, online learning would be, well, you know, as easy as it could possibly be, although there are actually students saying that online learning is quite difficult without that physical face-to-face component that they're used to. But they would probably need a different webinar to discuss that. But see, for these students, out of the 50 plus students, maybe 10 of them are doing really, really well in terms of their accessibility. And then maybe another few, 10 or 15 of them have, basically reasonable internet access, or they have mid-spec phones, but it's not too bad because they also have their laptops, and maybe their homes aren't so crowded. Maybe they don't have their own room, but it's doable enough that when they have to study, they can find a quiet spot in the house where they're not disturbed. And then you also have another group of students who just don't have, I would like to call it a necessity, but it's probably a luxury to them to have a decent internet signal. Probably a luxury to them if they could have a phone that didn't have to, that didn't like fill up after they downloaded a few new apps. And for these students, online learning is extra challenging. So what you have now is in the same class with the same teacher and the same material and the same learning and teaching activities and delivery, you have students who will be able to get the learning, who will be able to keep up with their studies. And then you have another group of students who will just be left behind every single class. And we're then actually facing this digital divide that's actually happening right in our classrooms. So that was something that I didn't feel comfortable about. It's challenging enough that I know, because I teach in English and the course is in English, I know that it's challenging enough already for some students to follow the course in English. And it's probably doubly or triply challenging when they're struggling with the course content, but at the same time can't even reach the course. And it's because of that I tried to find a solution so that every single student in the classroom would be able to, at the very least, get the same learnings or the same materials and the same experience, classroom experience, that every other one of their classmates is having. And that's when I discovered Telegram as a low bandwidth platform on which we can actually conduct full-blown classes. So I have to actually give a shout out to Professor Karim Alias from USM. He's basically, he doesn't like to admit this, but he's actually Malaysia's online guru, online learning guru. So if any of you really are interested to find out more about how to teach online, about platforms, apps, and skills, do look up Prof. Karim, and I'm just gonna very quickly type out his name right here. In the chat. Okay, great. You know what? I don't have to type it out because I've already got someone typing there. Prof. Karim is the best. And honestly, if you just type in Prof. Karim and e-learning, you'll see a lot of hits for him. There are also a lot of other really, really great e-learning teachers as well. And please forgive me to those of you who are here that I'm only calling out one person. I'm very cognizant of the time. So now that, let me get to the actual Telegram class. So hopefully let me now invite you into my Telegram class. Oh wait, sorry, before that, allow me to share a little bit. I did a quick survey with my students. Let me just show you a little bit of the things that they have said about online learning. So hopefully this will give us an idea of why Telegram or a low bandwidth form of classes or virtual classes would probably be, a really good alternative. So I did this really quick questionnaire with my students just yesterday, and I think so far 38 have responded. So let me just scroll down. So we've got here, a lot of them are actually using mobile data, and some are using Wi-Fi from home. And let me just scroll down and just take a look at this. How reliable is your internet signal? So for 20 of them, or more than half of the ones who's responded, 52%, 38 people responded overall. It depends. Sometimes your internet signal is good, sometimes it's not. For others, 16, it's quite reliable. So very, very happy and thankful that we do have really good internet infrastructure in Malaysia for that. Now, let me bring your attention to something. Okay, so I asked what devices do the students have for their online classes? And out of the 38 that answered, only 30 said that they actually have their own computer. Now, we would think as educators, as professionals, that every student actually has his or her own computer to do work on, but that's not quite the case. And we actually have students who rely on their phones to actually get and do their online classes. And in my class so far, no one has had to share a computer, but definitely we do know that at least 18 students, or at least 8 students in my class, do not have their own computer on which they can follow their online class. Now, I asked them to rate how difficult or easy it is to follow online classes via several different platforms. So you'll see that the highest rating is actually for WhatsApp, okay? 89.47% said it's the easiest. And the next highest rating is Telegram, where 78.95% of them said that Telegram is the easiest feature, the easiest platform to follow their online class with. And very interestingly, I also asked, since online classes began on 28th April, on average, how do you rate your ability to keep up with your studies? And you'll see that about almost half, 48.65%, said that it's mostly worse than before, while another half say that it's mostly the same. And actually, 3 people thought that it was better. So that's really great. And I'm sure those who say that their learning is better is probably because they have pretty good online connectivity. Now, I also got some questions. This is actually a live. You're actually seeing this live. So I also asked about what they like about online learning. So for them, many of them say what they really like is actually being at home and the flexibility of it. A couple of students say there's nothing they like about having online classes. There's a few more that's similar to that particular. Okay, here we go. About not liking online classes. So one of the students here responded that they get frustrated having to follow messages about classes all the time. It's like they have nothing else to do in life but to catch up with updates of classes occurring God knows when and how many different online platforms. So that's another issue. Probably something that I probably need to consider as well with my use of Telegram. And this question here asks, what do they hate most about having online classes? So there is a whole list of things that they don't like, but the main thing that, if you just look through the list here, the biggest complaint is slow internet connection, okay? Slow internet connection, awful data connection, network connection poor, assignments, Wi-Fi trouble, internet connection poor and unstable. Sometimes you can't hear clearly when they're having online live lectures, poor internet connection, and so on. So a lot of it has to do with internet, difficulties and issues with internet. And I also asked them if there are any lectures or courses that they feel is doing a really good job with online teaching. Now, caveat, I am not a very good teacher. But probably because my course and my learning is accessible to them via Telegram, quite a number of them actually responded and put my name in there. So this is actually anonymous, so they can't score any points with me. Well, actually, one person also felt that there was really no lecture or no course that was doing the job of online teaching very well, but she thought that my class was good enough, although she would prefer if I use the learning management system that my university provides. So definitely I need to actually also upload things into my university management system. And I'm going to be doing that as well. I promise to those of you from But what I do is that I have a link in my online management, learning management system, which links to the Telegram class that I'm doing. Okay, and I just wanted to highlight 2 quotes. Two people actually mentioned that they really appreciate the consideration that I give to students with poor internet connection. Okay, and another student also basically said the same thing. So basically, this is sort of a validation for me, knowing that Telegram could be a useful way of actually conducting online classes. Okay, now I just realized that my screen sharing is paused. My apologies for that. Okay, again, probably a network connection issue. So let me now take you on a tour of my Telegram class, and I hope that I'll be able to at least share this particular tour. So, oh great, so my screen is actually sharing now, so that's great. Okay, so this is my Telegram class, okay? I teach a class called Organizational Communication. That's class code AIM 1007. So you would see there are actually a lot of groups in this Telegram class, but don't worry, it's not something you have to be too concerned with. What I do have, the main channels or groups are the first one here called the AIM lecture channel. So in Telegram, they have two types of groups. One is a channel in which basically the person who is using Telegram or who set up the channel will be able to broadcast information or posts, but other people basically just get to view it and not communicate back. So this is my Telegram lecture channel, and in here I deliver my online lecture. And how I do it is that I actually have I separate my classes with, let's say I have a class last week and this week, so I separate the classes using a visual sort of like marker. For every class, I have different icons or different emojis that I use. So you'll see that I'll just bring you down. So the top part is actually information about the class. So I'll bring you down. And this is actually the first class that I did using Telegram. So it starts off with this emoji of trees, and it goes further down. This is actually, I tried to do attendance using the poll feature, but that didn't work out too well because I forgot to make it unanonymous. So the next lecture I did was using a card theme. So you can see that I would actually post basic information about the lecture here. And then I will post a really quick pop-in message so that they can feel the teacher presence, that I'm not just uploading things for them to watch or to read. So let me play you. I hope that's playing.
Hi everyone.
Okay, so I'm not sure whether that's playing or not.
So the first lesson will be
But basically, I post very, very short, mini or even nano lectures, mostly under 2 minutes long. Okay. And I also post slides in the form of photos and pictures. So this is actually something I learned from Prof. Karim. And I also do assessments, sort of like every week there'll be a small little quiz, and I do that straight online in Telegram by using something called the poll or quiz bot function. So I'm just gonna scroll down very, very quickly and just show you a couple of different classes. So within one class, okay, I actually start off the class with a very thick kind of like visual so that it's easy, so that I wouldn't say that it's easy, but it's a little bit easier for students to look for classes that they miss or to look for material that they miss when there is some sort of a visual marker for them to see. So I actually have like a very thick post of 4 lines of cards, and inside that class, when I shift from saying one thing to something else, for example, I start off with basically an overview of the class, and to separate the overview of the class with the actual content, the actual teaching content, I use a 1-line card. And so this is my actual teaching content. And when I'm finished with the teaching content, I have another 1-line card to visually separate the lesson from the assessment. So this is actually the assessment. I posted 5 short questions for them to answer. And then I finish up the lesson by giving out a pop-out message. And the pop-out message, sometimes I write it in text, and sometimes I record it in a very, very short voice text. And let me bring you down. So this pop-up message was a little bit long. I kind of reviewed the class. So, and I also put in attendance at the very end of the class. So my attendance is a little bit different. My attendance is not based on the time, but rather on their completion of the lesson. And I give, as you can see here, a deadline for them to complete the lesson. And the attendance, and actually students are actually quite good at being honest with it. So I have students that have not filled up their attendance yet, and they come and message me on WhatsApp saying, Amira, I'm so sorry, I haven't done it yet, so I'll fill up my attendance later. So what I have here is that students will fill up their attendance, and at the very end, I've actually changed it to the beginning now, but in this particular attendance, I have something called an honor code, which I've now renamed as an integrity pledge, where the students promise that they're being honest and ethical, and that they're recording the attendance themselves, and they've actually done the lesson before they went in and did the attendance. So I'm quite happy to see actually there are some students that have not yet done their attendance, because that shows that they're being honest because they haven't finished the lesson yet. So that's quite good to know that we have, you know, ethical and honest leaders of the future in our universities. So now, this is my next class, and the next class now has a card theme, and I've got a couple of different themes as well. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'm just going to scroll down. So another class has a cat theme, and then sometimes I post YouTube videos. As best as I can, I try to post really short videos, or I try to find videos that are actually divided up so that it's only about 2 or 3 at the maximum 5 minutes long, so that it's not too long for the students to actually go and do it's not too difficult for students with low bandwidth to download or to stream the videos. And my lecture notes, as I mentioned early on, they're in the form of I take a picture of this lecture slide and I post it. And then underneath that lecture slide, I give a short lecture or a series of short nano lectures lasting less than 2 minutes each. Okay, so now, let me just, it's probably a lot to take in. Can I just get and see in the chat how you guys are doing? Do you need me to slow down? If you want me to slow down, just say go slow. If you think it's all right, then just type in okay. So let's see what you have to say in the chat. I'm just checking my chat now. Okay, great. So I see a lot of okays. Thank you so much for that. Now, my apologies. I know that there are some questions in here, so maybe I should just like really very, very quickly try to respond to that. Thank you for those who say that we can go on. Now, someone asked about Telegram has a poll function. Yes, Mr. Ashik Menon, Telegram has a poll function, and that is actually the reason why I use Telegram instead of WhatsApp. I actually already have a WhatsApp group for my class, and we've been using that WhatsApp group since the beginning of the semester for communication. But because WhatsApp is not as robust as Telegram, I felt that Telegram actually has a lot of really great features that makes it very, very useful for making it into sort of like a mini alternative learning management system, or a virtual alternative function that you can actually, a virtual alternative class that you can actually do. So let me share some of those functions with you. Caveat though, I've only been doing this for 3.5 weeks, so I still have a lot to learn. But it's that easy. I was not on Telegram before this, but I got onto Telegram and it was so intuitive and so easy that within this 3 weeks that I've managed to do quite a bit of things using the simple features in Telegram. So let's take a look at that. I am going to share with you another screen just to give you a bit of an overview of some of the things that we can actually look at, or some of the things that we can actually expect from Telegram. Okay, so some of the things that I've shared with you, of course, my virtual classroom design. There's a couple of things that I haven't touched on yet, which is class discussion groups, which I'm going to talk about. But just point out to you, there are a couple of really great features on Telegram that actually make very, very useful online alternative. Not a perfect alternative to learning management system, but it's quite useful as a alternative when you actually have emergency remote teaching, which is actually, oops, somebody just muted me. Okay, I think someone just muted me, but that's all right, I'm back on. So some of the really important or useful features in Telegram that we can use for teaching are something called the folder function, where you can group a lot of channels and a lot of chat groups into one folder so you can find them easily. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between channel and group. And there's also a very important useful function called group history that allows people who enter the group late to see what was posted before they entered the group. And we're also going to be looking at a couple of very useful chat features on Telegram, which include edit, delete, attach poll, and quizbot. I'll go through it one by one. So now I'm going to go back to my Telegram class, and here we are. Okay, so when you enter Telegram, basically the first thing that you see will probably be like a list of the groups that you are in. So obviously, and also your contacts. Okay, I'm going to scroll very quickly, so for privacy's sake. So you'll see a group of your contacts who have actually joined Telegram. And of course, you will see your groups that you have joined or that you have created. Now you can see here I have many groups, okay? So I've got a couple of groups that I can actually pin at the top. So it's great if I need that group and I don't want to be scrolling down looking for it. I can actually pin up to, I think, 3 or 4 groups at the very top of your Telegram. But to make it even easier to use Telegram as a class is we can actually have something called folder. Now, there, as you can see on the left side of my screen and the panel, there is something looks like a folder, and it's labeled AIM1007. So basically, this is the folder that I created for my class. So to create the folder, it's very easy. You go to the menu, and then you create, I'm stumped now because the folder creation option is actually not visible here. But if you go into settings, there's a option for folders, and you can create a new folder. Okay, I'm going to create one right now. Okay, we'll just call this Telegram class. Okay, we'll just call it Telegram. And we're going to be using this folder later on. So I've created this folder, and we're going to populate it later with some groups and some channels. So I've created that folder called Telegram. Okay, probably not the most creative name, but oh, I need to choose at least one chat for this folder. Okay, so I will add chats. Now what I've done is I've actually already added a chat called No Student Left Behind. I created this group for us to practice on later. Okay, it's called No Student Left Behind Telegram Teaching Tips. And I will add that group into that folder that I just created just now, which I just called Telegram. You know what? Let's change this to Teach Telegram. Okay. Not very, can't type the whole word, but that's okay. You'll be able to find it later. So I'm going to create that folder. So now I have 2 folders. One is my actual class folder, and another one is Teach Telegram, which is basically a mock-up folder, which we're going to populate later on. So let's take a look at my actual Telegram class. So in my actual Telegram class, as you can see here, I have a lot of groups, but don't panic. The actual group that you really, or channel that you really need to worry about, I created actually, firstly here, you can see the lecture channel. Oh wait, this is the edit function. Let me just get out from the folder edit. How do I get out of here? Excuse me, this is always an issue with online classes. Okay, so let me get out of my menu. Okay, so let's go into, into my AIM1007 folder. So as mentioned just now, there are a lot of groups and channels in here. Now, the most important group for my class would be the one that I showed you just now, which is, now I've got to actually look for it, but that's okay because there's a search function at the top. So I actually call it the lecture channel, which is this one, AIM lecture channel. And this is the Telegram channel that I just showed you just now, where my entire class teaching is inside that channel for every week, or every topic really. Now, I also created 2 other channels. One is AIM pending lecture. Let me look for that again. Okay, so I created this AIM pending lecture channel and also a beta lecture channel because sometimes I might want to try out the arrangement of my class, and I don't want to post it straight into my actual class, although sometimes I do. So it's actually good to have sort of like a beta channel or a pending channel where the only person that's in the channel is me. So when I created this channel, I added somebody else. Basically, I added my son because you need to actually add another person in order to create a channel or a group. And then I took my son out from there. So it's just me. I'm the only subscriber in here. And this is sort of like my messy kind of like channel where I try out different arrangements. Now, let's go back again to my class folder. So let's just get out of there. I'm going to just close this. And you'll see there is another chat, which is actually a group. And in this group, I've created a class discussion group. And in this class discussion group, I post some posts or reminders that are directly related to our class, and also some, instructions and questions to my students for preferences in terms of, when they would prefer to do their exam or any issues that they're having. And so this is the discussion group, and with groups, you can actually add a lot of people to it. So all of my students are in both the class discussion group here and also the lecture channel here. Now, what I also did is that we want to have, we want students to be able to also enjoy, or maybe they don't enjoy it, but we would like students to sometimes get the advantage of peer learning, of discussion, of collaboration with their classmates. So in a regular physical class, we sometimes actually, get students to go and discuss things in groups and then come back and present to the class. So we do that as well. Sometimes in Zoom, you can have actually breakout activities. So what I've done is that I've created 11 groups. Each group has between 5 to 7 members. And I've assigned each student a group to follow. And each of them, so these are the 11 groups. Okay, I've got group 1, which I call Greet. They're not in order now because students have been posting things, their discussions in the group. But I'll just give you an example of what happens in the small group. So this group actually has 6 members. So 6 students are in here. And what I get them to do is I ask them to actually write down their full name and their ID number and also their Telegram name, because sometimes it gets pretty confusing trying to figure out who is who. So this way I can actually tell which student is posting. So after they've done that, when they entered the group, I gave them a class discussion sort of like instructions. So this here are my instructions. I basically asked them to discuss a concept, and I made it mandatory that each person must participate. So everybody has to ask or share at least one idea or question about the discussion topic, and everybody has to respond to at least 2 other students' posts, and in total everybody has to post or respond a minimum of 3 times. And I gave them this morning as a deadline to do that. So this group has been pretty active. You can see here quite a number of discussions. I'm still scrolling down, still discussions going on. So this is one of the ways that we can actually use the features in this Telegram to get students to go into sort of like different groups. So basically, I've taken you on a sort of like a virtual tour of my Telegram class. And I think now might be a good time for us to maybe try out being in a Telegram class itself. Now, I do know that there's a couple more things that we haven't actually looked at specifically, but don't worry. Before I break you off into groups to join your own Telegram group, sorry, I'm not going to break you off into group, but basically I'm going to send you over to Telegram. Don't worry if you don't have it, I'll still be here live online for those of you who do not have Telegram. But for those of you who do, you can go into Telegram and you can try it out. So while we're doing that, I've already explained to you about folders. I've explained a little bit about group. Now I'm just going to show you a little bit of the features so that when you get into your Telegram, you can actually sort of like play around with it. So now let's go into Telegram and let's go to the new folder that we just created just now. Now, remember that I've created a class, sort of like, okay, am I in here yet? Oh, I need to actually close. All right, so I've created this Telegram class, which is called No Student Left Behind, Telegram Teaching Tips. And I've also given some instructions, which you can take a look at later on. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to share this link, and I'll share it in the chat, and you can try and go into Telegram and join the class. If you're not able to, no worries. You can just take a really quick scroll and see what's inside it. There's a little bit of an activity in there, which I will go through with you shortly. For the benefit of those people who aren't able to actually join the Telegram group, I'll be taking you through it via this live Zoom video conferencing. So I've already shared the chat, so feel free. I can see a couple of people already joining in, so that's really great. Now, while many of you are joining in, let's just go through together what's in this class. So obviously, this class can't be a full-blown class. So what I've done in here is a bit of a class introduction at the top. Okay, I'm going to keep scrolling down. And I'm using the butterfly icon emoji here to divide up the different ideas that I'm actually sharing. So the first message I've posted here is, hi, welcome to this mock-up Telegram class. If there's anyone you'd like to invite who's not in this group, not in this Zoom right now, you can just share this link with them. So this class will take the form of a peer learning discussion-based class. And the first topic of discussion for now is only one topic. It's based on the school and university closure due to Malaysia's recent COVID-19 movement control order or lockdown. Okay, so schools and higher education institutions around the world have shifted their classes online. For some, it's great, but for others, it means that they'll be left behind in their studies while their classmates and their peers progress. So the discussion question is, for the students, sometimes even the teachers that are left behind, what are some solutions we can turn to address this problem? What can each of the following parties do to ensure that online learning is within reach and accessible to all? What can the individual student do, the teacher, the school, the institution, communities, governments, NGOs, international community? What can each and every one, or maybe just pick one of these parties and share your idea of what they can do to address the problem of, poor connectivity and the digital divide. Now, very important reminder, okay? Very, very important. Please be polite and constructive when sharing your thoughts. And please remember that we're here to find solutions and not to assign blame. Okay, so because we don't have much time, I would like to invite you to do this class or do this discussion later after the webinar. Allow me to just share with you some of the things that you will be seeing or some of the things that, okay, you've got people already in the class, so thank you so much for joining, but let's do the discussion later after my webinar. But let me just share with you now a couple of the features of the features of Telegram that would be really, really useful for teaching. So now let's look at this little attach paperclip mark, okay? So if you click on that, you basically can, just like in WhatsApp, you can select files and share it, okay? So that's pretty easy, okay? So I'm just sharing a file, it's a mock file. Well, actually, it's not a mock file. It's actually a PDF printout of my virtual lecture channel, which I took you through just now. Okay, so that's one. Now, another thing that you can do is, if you see here, this little mark here, this is actually if you want to post something that you're not quite ready to post yet. So I've actually scheduled this little post, okay, which should come on in about 5 minutes, but it's not ready yet, so I scheduled it. Now I'll show you how to actually do that. Okay, so let's just say that I am going to post something to my students.
Sorry, Dr. Amira, is your screen sharing? Because now it's blank.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Yeah, okay, thank you so much for shouting out and letting me know. Let me share again. Hopefully that works. Okay, thank you so much for that.
No
okay,
worries.
sharing now. Okay, thank you.
Got
All
it.
right, just now, just to let you know, sorry, the person that talked to me just now, did you manage to see when I attached the file?
Yes, I can see it in Telegram.
Okay, so did you see the process of attaching the file?
No, the screen was blank then.
Okay, right, sorry about that. Okay, so just very quickly, if you want to attach a file, you can just go to this paperclip, click on it, and then choose a file from your device or your computer, and then just attach the file, just like we do with, lots of other different apps. So I'm attaching that file again. So that's one feature of Telegram. So another feature now is I am going to share with you a delayed post, how to do that. So let's just pretend that, I am typing something here, message to student. So there, I am now going to, well, this icon here on the right is the post icon. So I'm going to post it, but I hold on it a little bit longer. Oops, that got posted accidentally. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to try again. Oh, you know what? This is actually not working. Guess what I just learned today, thanks to you guys, thanks to the fact that I'm actually doing this for you. I learned that in actuality, there are differences between Telegram on your desktop and Telegram on your phone. So really, really cool thing. If you want to do a delayed post, it actually works when you're doing it on your phone. So what basically happens is when you try to post something, if you hold on the send icon a little bit longer, you actually have an option to schedule the post to later. So that's something that you can do on a smartphone, but not in the desktop. But something really great that you can do on the desktop that you cannot do on the smartphone is you can actually create groups where you can have the history of the group be seen by people or students who come in later into the group. So let's do that right now. Okay, so I am going to go out and create a new group. Now, just to share it, the channel that I shared with you just now, No Student Left Behind, Telegram Teaching Tips, that's actually a group. And in a group, people can join in and communicate. But if you use a channel, only the person who created the channel, I might be wrong, would be able to actually post things, or people that the person gives access, gives sort of like administrator access to, would be able to post things. So let's just create a new group, okay? So let's call the group test group, okay? So for this test group, I'm gonna create this group, and I am just going to add, okay, I'm just gonna add my son first. He's got like so many groups that I've added him to, but then don't worry, I actually take him out from there. So now I've created a test group, Now, where was our group just now? Let me go back to all chats, and there's my new group that I created. Now, with this group, on the desktop, what I need to do to ensure that people who join the group later will be able to see the posts, like here, I'll do post 1. Okay, you can test this later. I will share the link with you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click at the very top bar here, tap on it, and then group info will come out, and then click on these 3 little menus icon, the 3 dots, and there is an option there to manage group. Now this option is not available in the phone app. It's available on the desktop app. So you click on manage group, and of course you can change the group name, but more importantly, go down to chat history for new members and change it from hidden to visible and save. So what will happen now is that if you go into this group, you will actually be able to see post 1 and post 2, even though you came into the group much later or after post 1 and post 2 have already been posted into the group. So I was going to share this with you, but I probably don't need to, I think, because I've already shared another group with you, and this group probably will just be empty. So that's one pretty great feature on the Telegram desktop. Now there are a couple of other really interesting features. But there's something called, if you want to create assessment, like really simple assessments, not really robust ones, but simple assessments, you can use something called the QuizBot. So to look for it, just type @quiz, and then it will just come up. It's called QuizBot. You click on that, and then this QuizBot will help you to create a quiz. So the first message that you will see, okay, so if you can create a question, so click on create a question, and you can basically type in whatever question that you want. The thing about it is that it's actually a multiple choice kind of question, so you can't really do, you know, subjective, open-ended questions. But it's good enough, you know, better than nothing, better than students not being able to actually access the assessment. So you've got question, maybe I'll just call it question 1, and I have my options. Answer 1, okay. Sorry, maybe I'll just type that in. So that's the first option. I add another option. Answer 2, and maybe I just have a quiz. Answer 3. And this is going to be a quiz. So I want to know who's answering what. So definitely you want to untick anonymous voting and get rid of that. You want it to be in quiz mode. This explanation is where you explain to the student, then they'll be able to see it after they actually try and attempt the question. So you will tell them that S1 is correct because whatever, and then you can create. So once you click create, oh, and you have to choose the correct answer. So you actually choose the correct answer so that the QuizBot knows what the correct option is, and you create. And once you create, you'll see that, okay, this ends up being part of a quiz that I was already doing, but I haven't finished yet just now, so that's okay. So now it tells me that my quiz, which is titled Lesson 7 Assessment, now has 1 question. Now I can create another question. Now just, now let me just click done, okay, because it says here simply send done to finish creating the quiz. So once the quiz is done, I can then set a timer for how long I want the questions to last for the student. So let's say that I have 5 questions. So for 5 questions, do I want the student to answer question number 1 in 10 seconds? And then if he doesn't answer in 10 seconds, that question will disappear and then question number 2 will come up. So I tried it first with 15 seconds, but what happened is that students in very low signal areas actually didn't have time to finish the quiz because it kind of like got, you know, the connection got disrupted. So instead, I changed it to 5 minutes. So with 5 minutes, what happens is that you have 1 question. Okay, for example, I'll show you an actual quiz that I've done here. Okay, start this quiz. So you have, oh, I have an unfinished quiz, so I cannot start another quiz. Sorry, I couldn't show that to you, but basically you have a question. For example, the first question in a series of quizzes, in the quiz series will come up, and then the student has to answer it. If the student answers the question, whether it's right or wrong, they will then see what the correct answer is and my explanation for that. And then immediately, the next question would come up, and then they can answer the next question. If a student takes a long time to answer a question, and I set the timer to 10 seconds, what's going to happen is that after 10 seconds, even if the student hasn't answered this question, QuizBot will automatically post the next question, and they'll miss out on answering that first question. So to give them a little bit of time, especially for students with the low bandwidth areas, I give a little bit extra time. Instead of 10 seconds, maybe make it a bit longer, 30 seconds, or even 5 minutes. If these are kind of like high order thinking questions that they actually have to think about, and they can't just go and search for the answer. So that's also important, actually, using thinking questions or contextual questions if you're going to do a question online. Oh, well, I am now actually at the 1 hour mark of the webinar. So we will be ending soon, because I know that everybody's got stuff to do after this, and I won't drag you up over time. But if you just allow me an extra couple of minutes, I'll make it very, very quick. Oops, my screen sharing is paused, so let me do a new share, okay? Let me just basically invite you to please continue in the class that I shared with you just now and try it out. So let's just very, very quickly go to the end of this. And I would also like to invite you, if you could please also fill out an assessment for this webinar today. You can do that via the link that I'll be sharing with you very, very shortly. But possibly even more important than that, please do remember that, okay, here's the link. Please do remember that tomorrow we will have another series of online classes, and tomorrow will be the closing and the end of the VLC Festival of Online Learning. So I do hope that you'll be able to join in tomorrow and check out some of the other classes that will be available on our class tomorrow. Okay, so now everybody, I'm going to be sharing my assessment link. I'll be sharing this and we will officially end the webinar, but I will still be here for anybody who has questions, and I'll probably be going through some of the questions that some of you have posted here. And we can continue on sort of like and pretend that it's an after class, like sometimes when the class is over, the lecturer leaves the lecture hall, then students trail behind and go asking questions and asking for a little extra time and tutorial. So that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna end this official webinar, but I am still available for questions and answers until 5:30. So to all of you who stayed on until 1 hour mark, thank you so much. Please remember to fill up the assessment for me, and please also try and join the Google or the Telegram class that we just created and try and figure out and try and basically discuss about inclusive teaching and what different parties can do. So thank you so much, everybody. So I'm just gonna say bye, everyone, or bye to those of you who have to leave. Thanks so much.